it going, everyone? Tim here, 2D Adventures. Hope everyone's all well there. As always, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. So we're going to continue on today here with another chassis option out there. We just finished putting together the Rock Pirates Interceptor chassis here. And in the description below, I will link the Rock Pirates RC website as well as their YouTube channel, because they have a lot of videos going through on breakdowns and swap options and building, so I didn't necessarily feel the need to go through an entire build process. Overall, I mean, I've watched lots of videos and I've seen lots of posts about this chassis and a lot of the other accessory options that Rock Pirates makes as well. Everything from shock towers, servo mounts, sliders, some aluminum bed options, and many more. So definitely felt the need to go ahead and get something going on here. Overall, the chassis and the concept, everything here for the Interceptor chassis is very awesome. This is something, to my mind, it's your bridge between your RTR and then like your next step with like a full out LCG comp orientated build. This chassis is made to work with multiple RTR platforms as far as swapping them over, like SCX-10.2, Element RC, SCX-10.3, or even Vanquish VS410s, and there are a few others as well. And on Rock Pirates website, on the Interceptor chassis, it does give you a breakdown with the Interceptor chassis of what works well with it, and taking like whatever you're swapping, it will give you a list of additional parts you will need from them or things that you will need to modify or move around, etc. and stuff like that. So mine here basically is a VS410 swap here. I didn't have an RTR that I wanted to just swap over to the chassis, but I had enough of the main components and everything to work with it. Now, one thing with this chassis, it does require that you use the stock skid from whatever chassis you're using for, because it does not necessarily have its own standard link mounts or anything like that. Whatever chassis you're swapping, you will need to use that stock skid. But the premise of swapping this over from your RTR does lower the overall CG of your platform, going whatever stock chassis rails you're going to the Interceptor chassis, and it also gives you some better geometry for mounting the shocks and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be a nice improvement on an RTR, and this thing does set fairly low. So I hopped on Rock Pirates, did some browsing, looked at the chassis, different options, everything they had with, and kind of put my cart together there. So from Rock Pirates, I got the Interceptor chassis here, and I got it in the red anodized color. There are several other colors available as well. And when you pick the chassis, it does come with its own panhard mount, which is nice and convenient. As well as that, go ahead and pick up the Power Wagon boat side sliders there, as well as their machine dual servo mount and the hardline bed that they offer. Because this is just a very nice looking aluminum bed there, and it is available in several colors as well. And I just kind of figured, you know, kind of going through my paint scheme, red chassis, went ahead and went with the blue bed there. I would also recommend grabbing a set of their chassis spacers. They are roughly 75mm chassis spacers, and I actually had some here at the house, so I went ahead and just used what I had here. They also offer some body post mounts and a few other things as well that you can add on as well. Now to the heart of it. So once I got my full list of everything that I had from Rock Pirates, it's like, okay, now I need to build a truck. Again, VS410 base. So we went with VFD transmission and stock skid. Right here, just the standard Pro VFD. And then we went with a set of the Incision Phoenix links, all stock links, so it matches up with its stock link locations. And then we went with some F10 straight axles, front and rear. And then here in the rear, I did add the link riser for the F10 axle from 1/10 RC, so it came out really nice there. And the option to give me a little more adjustability if I feel it's needed. Some of those also just use some extra wildboard drive shafts that I had laying around to get everything connected. And then shocks, I got here some 90mm in the works big bore shocks on here that we had in our spare parts drawer. So all in all, once all those pieces were together, we had a full truck ready to rock and roll. Even though I wasn't swapping an RTR, the assembly process was fairly easy. So when you are building it, you're basically, you're unbolting chassis rails and putting these in its place, making the few adjustments that is recommended from Rock Pirates. I'll throw the wheels and body on here in a second, but before I did that, for body, I just took some SCX-10 body posts and I just simply bolted them to the front shock towers. And then I'm running cab only on here. So for the rear, I just took some screws, put through the hardline bed through the already pre-drilled holes, and then marked it on the cab accordingly. So then when I'm just putting the cab on, I can just kind of put the cab on, slide it into the post here, and boom, down on the post, and we are good to go. So let me throw the wheels on here to give you a more finished idea. Just like that, everything's all together. And I did decide to go cab only on this build. One, I hadn't done a cab only build in a while, and I really wanted to use the hardline bed there, so I went ahead and got that, and that's what we chose here. We went with the creep on here, and everything just fit, again, just really nicely. Everything just flows good, and they have several slider options available, and I went with the boat side sliders. That way everything gets nice and as flush as it can there, and they do have a little bit of curve to them. These are actually my wheels of fortune here. We have some 1/9 Vanquish methods there, as well as the Vanquish VXT 2 tires in red compound. Overall, everything, again, like I mentioned, went together really well, and I don't think it looks too shabby at all, if I may say so myself. So I think it's time to take it out and have a little fun. Well, that was a very successful first outing with the Rock Pirates Interceptor chassis here. I had an absolute blast with it, and overall, I was very, very impressed with it. Its overall capabilities and everything like that were just really, really good. And like I mentioned, this is more of an LCG chassis, and with the straight axles here, this chassis, this everything is very, very low slung. So your ground clearance there, it is just kind of hanging off the ground there. And video, I think, proved also tackling some of those lines, even some of the inclines of breakover. It did and handled itself very, very well. So again, very, very happy with the chassis overall. Digging it. So the overall quality of everything was super awesome. And just overall the rest of the Rock Pirates line that complement the chassis and just its overall abilities of being able to be swapped and use different platforms like SCX 10.2, 10.3, VS410, and several others elements. You know, that ability to take an RTR and put it to this and have an immediate performance enhancement and looks very, very good, and just overall high quality parts again. So once again, very, very excited with this. So if you were looking at the Rock Pirates, been seeing some pictures, been seeing some videos of it, it is definitely one that I would recommend. I'm not even remotely disappointed with anything. Again, overall, honestly, I believe it exceeded my expectations that I had initially after I put it together and just seeing how everything's set. It exceeded my expectations there in its overall performance. So it's definitely a win there in my opinion. So, and again, assembly, everything went pretty straightforward. Even just building one ground up like this versus swapping one, the assembly and everything. Overall, it's all pretty straightforward. And like I mentioned, on the site, they have a lot of different variety of options, different sliders. Like I mentioned, if this was something you had your eye on, was looking at, or you're looking to take your RTR to the, that next level, not quite a full-on like competition style build, complete ground up, but something that puts you in a more performance oriented direction, definitely recommend this. Or even if you just want, a different chassis for your RTR, this is another one that I would recommend because you're able to swap most of what you have, maybe have to get a couple extra pieces here and there or little modifications, but nothing too crazy when it comes to the overall build process. So again, I'll get all that. I'll get the Rock Pirates RC website as well as our YouTube channel linked down below. Any questions, comments, anything like that, as always, put them down below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, everyone, have a great one. Crawl on.